Hello guys, and today we're going to go ahead and talk about the Republic Part 2. And today we're going to go ahead and talk about Part 7 to Part 11. Let's get this started with. Also, we're going to add the appendix in, so technically 12 parts. Let's get this started with. Now, last time we actually talked about education and the role of women in the society. What I neglected to mention last time was the auxiliaries. There are the producers and the auxiliary class. The auxiliaries are chosen from the producer class, well, as they are in training before they become producers, to be one of the best of them, and those become the auxiliary class. They are given the physical training, and they are also given philosophy and other types of training too. Along with all that, there's so much more to really talk about. Uh, all of this seems to go ahead and do a bunch of great things and seems like a utopia right now. However, then we forgot to neglect to mention, which we will mention right now in part 6, that one of the auxiliary classes, some of the auxiliary class people in the auxiliary class will be chosen to be part of the guardian class, the class which will be the rulers, and they will not be allowed to touch any gold, silver, brass, or sorry, gold or silver or any kind of jewelry ever at all, because then that will easily corrupt them and destroy their training. And if you destroy their training, you are no longer a good ruler, at least according to this philosopher king right there called Plato. Now, Plato is not someone we would want to be our philosopher king nowadays, but hey, at least he tried to make a perfect society. Next thing that we actually have to go ahead and talk about here is that we have to talk about the philosopher and the king. Now, the philosopher here will have intense training, and after all that intense training, we will still have a bit of a lack of how things are working out right now, because a lot of things. Now, we've already kind of defined justice, and we've also kind of see how justice will be seen here too. I'm not sure why they didn't talk about crime and jail, but then again, he does call this the perfect society. And because he calls it the perfect society, there's probably no crime in there right now. Alright? Am I right? With all that happening, next thing that comes up is all this utopia things that come in here too. Now, a bunch of this utopia is happening is that there's a bunch of kings, but it's like something like the British Parliament, except think on the lines of 5 to 6 people. No, 3 to 6 people, somewhere on those lines too. And with that, you can actually kind of do things too. This utopia, so-called utopia, seems to be what they call this philosopher king. And with this philosopher king, he can do anything. He's taught philosophy, and with all the previous training that he's gotten, which includes the producer training, I'll just call it the producer training because producers in all classes need this training, math and science, just math and science, and then the auxiliary training, which includes, which is the education all guardians and auxiliary classes had, which is physical training, as well as a bit of philosophy and art and music, as well as some a bit more additional science if there are new discoveries that are learned for that to help with the soul. So the science part is more mainly for the brain. And afterwards, if you somehow pass all these tests and you have the chance to become a guardian, you can go ahead and become a guardian by going through more education. After this more intense education, you can go ahead and do as many things as you would probably want to do. More things that happen here is that these guardians go ahead and do these guardians, and it gets this auxiliary training of the physical training and the physical and mental ruling training too. Also, they need to learn about plane geometry and other things as well, because you need geometry to actually go ahead and plan on a battlefield too. And maybe it actually goes ahead and gives you out on blocks.io. One time I some people call that a terrible game in a Minecraft copy, but on blocks.io one time I actually kind of used some math to go ahead and calculate things on Hypixel Bed Wars. Once I got a fireball, and my render distance was a bit too slow, but I turned on pixels so I could technically see the pixel, and I calculated where to fireball the bridge so that he gets knocked off the bridge. Somehow I hit the bridge. It was right in front of him, but his velocity prevented him from stopping, so he fell in the void, but I didn't get the kill. Because he didn't get damage. What the frick? And with that, there's so much more to really talk about too. Math is important, geometry is important for proof in Bed Wars and Sky Wars. But however, one more thing that they need is special guardian training too. They don't get more physical training. That's like hired, and they've only done it for 2 to 3 years, depending on the person themselves. However, they also needed to understand ruling and more philosophy too, because philosophy is their main job and their preferable job, but their side job here is actually ruling. And if they are great rulers, then they have the greatest chance of all to go ahead and become the philosopher king. They have the most power in this society, but they don't get to choose how they live their lives. Instead, they go ahead and live in this commune, which is pretty dirty and it's very cramped, and they all living in the same room. They're sleeping in the same room, and they go to different rooms to just go ahead. They go into the same room to just go ahead and even work. They have little privacy, which I'm guessing is just the bathroom and showering. And other than that, nothing else to really do so as well. They have to share everything except for their bathroom and showering experiences. And with that, they are basically it. That's basically them. With this system of justice in hand and a bunch of other things to really talk about, this king, this utopia, this philosopher king, all this turns out for Socrates, or technically Plato himself, he calls that a utopia. He used the auxiliary class to go ahead and defend the motherland, defend the Callipolis from other neighboring places who want their resources and wealth and luxuries. And so, yeah, that's it. The auxiliary class has to be strong, but not brutal or vicious. But they have to be well-tempered too. So does the guardians. I'm guessing the producer, but the downside of being a producer is you have to stay the same producer for your entire life. If you're a farmer, you stay a farmer for your entire life. If you're a clove manufacturer, you stay a clove manufacturer for the rest of your life. If you're a scientist, you have to stay a scientist for the rest of your life. And that's it. That's part 2 of The Republic by Plato. So I really hope you guys actually did enjoy this episode, and I hope to see you guys in the next episode too. See you next time in The Republic Summary. Toodaloo. Bye-bye. Bye.